Well, morning and welcome to our latest youth online chat. And this morning, I just want us to think about Palm Sunday and Holy Week, because today is Palm Sunday, which marks the beginning of Holy Week, which is the week leading up to Easter Sunday, and all that happened in this week. So it begins with, if you want to read it in the Bibles, it's in Matthew chapter 21, and it's a story of Jesus riding on a donkey triumphantly into Jerusalem, and the Jewish people are there. They are waving like palm branches, and they're putting their coats on the ground, and they are welcoming in Jesus. And it was the thought of the time that all the Jewish people were ready and waiting for a Messiah to come, a Messiah who was going to overthrow the Romans and bring freedom and victory to the Jewish people. And they had just seen Jesus doing all these miracles, doing all this amazing stuff, and they were like, this is the guy who's going to come and bring us this victory that we've been waiting for all these years. And the disciples are there with him, thinking presumably the same thing, thinking about this victory that Jesus is riding into. But then as we work through Holy Week, as we go into Holy Week, we have these other events come up. We see Jesus betrayed by Judas on Maundy Thursday, which leads to Jesus being crucified on Good Friday. And so we have this development in this week that what goes from a place of victory actually becomes a complete place of loss for the disciples, that they've lost all that they were hoping for in Jesus, as well as losing their friend and their companion. And yeah, all that they were hoping for, all that they desired, was at that moment when Jesus died, completely taken from them. So there was this real sense of loss within the lives of the disciples. And I was just thinking about how that might be quite relevant for some of us at this time of everything that's going on with the coronavirus, that perhaps some of us are feeling a sense of loss. Some of us in this country and in this world have lost people because of it. But then even if that hasn't happened, there is still a sense of loss of life that was normal. So many of you would have finished school and had exams this year. You've lost that community. You've lost other things that are going on. Lots of us, all of us, really have lost this normal sense of life, and life looks completely different. So in the same ways that the disciples were having to rethink what life looked like, many of us are having to do that as well. But then, for us, living 2,000 years after Jesus, we can see that what looked like Jesus going from victory to death was actually Jesus going from victory to victory, because what looks like Jesus being defeated on the cross was actually Jesus having victory over death on the cross. And we see and we know that Jesus was completely at work in the apparent loss of Good Friday and of the silence of Easter Saturday, that the disciples would have thought that it's all finished, it's all ended, it's all over. We know that God was working to bring his kingdom, to achieve all that he wanted to achieve through Jesus, that it was being done, that it wasn't from victory to death, but it was from victory to victory, and God was still very much active in this time. And I just thought perhaps that can be an encouragement for us, that at this time where it might feel like we have a real sense of loss, that things have been taken from us, that life as normal has been taken from us, that actually God is still at work, that God is still doing things, that God is still present and still active. And just a real encouragement, I guess, for you all to be listening to God's Spirit, to see what God is saying to you, how he's calling you to live at this time, what he's calling you to do, how he's calling you to be a friend, to be a family member, how he's calling you to be a student, how he's calling you to live life at this time might look completely different to what you're expecting. But that doesn't mean that God is absent, that God is not doing anything. He is still completely present and with you, and he's calling you into the activities that he is doing at this time. So that's my encouragement for us this Palm Sunday, to remember that Jesus isn't going from victory to death, but he's going from victory to victory, that in the loss of this week that we might find that actually God is still hugely present and hugely active. So just to be aware of all that God is doing in you and through you, and just to be waiting for him and aware that he is so keen and eager to invite you into all that he is doing. So I hope that's an encouragement. If you have any questions or any comments, then please feel free just to leave them below, or if you want to get in touch to chat more, then that would also be really great. And just know that I'm praying for you, and we as a church are praying for you as our young people. We think you're all great, and we are with you in prayer at this time. So I hope that this has been an encouragement, and I will tune in and see you next week.